Xbox On. Welcome to Xbox On, a podcast with one host about one console, Xbox. I am said host Jesse DeRosa, and on today's episode, we'll be talking about the latest Xbox news for the week of August 29th, 2024, including Avowed only runs at 30 FPS on Xbox, and I am outraged. This fall's biggest games are beginning to pour out, showering us with tons to play and discuss. We now know more about a canceled Crash Bandicoot 5, and more. So I said, first-person shooter? I hardly first-person know her. Welcome to Xbox On, everybody. In this week in Xbox history, in the year 2009, back in 15 years ago, 2009, 15 years ago, you telling me it's been 15 years since I went to my first Vans Warped Tour? You tell me it's been 15 years since I saw freaking Seosin play live at the Vans Warped Tour, and that girl passed out, and the guy threw his freaking Monster Energy that was actually just a water can in the air, and it refreshed me in the middle of the Georgia summer heat. What the hell? 15 years? Well, 15 years ago this week, Batman Arkham Asylum was released for the Xbox 360. Finally, one of these games I can speak to. As someone who recently played through all of the Batman Arkham games, well, all but Origin. I'm saving that for this fall. Don't think I forgot. For those who remember last year when I was like, I played through the three main entries. I'm saving Batman Arkham Origins. I have it on my PC. I'm going to play it around Christmas time because it seems like a Christmas game. So I'm going to play it in a couple months here when December rolls around, probably after I finish up Indie, in like mid-December. But I played finally through the Batman Arkham games so I can actually speak to these. And boy, oh boy, Arkham Asylum is a very good game. I get the hype. I get the love for this game. I understand the influence of this game and how it have greatly impacted game development and influenced publishers and wealthy people with money to understand that you can acquire licenses to popular comic books, video games, movies, and then give developers the proper time and resources to make a real, truly AAA experience set in that universe. So I feel like Batman Arkham is really much in the way like we have to give Peter Jackson and his Lord of the Rings trilogy credit, in a little bit of Harry Potter and Spider-Man and X-Men, kind of that early 2000s stuff, all the credit for making nerd culture very mainstream and in the way it is today, where it's so accessible and everyone loves it. It's a similar thing. You got to give Batman Arkham Asylum a lot of credit for making licensed IP no longer this AA movie license tie-in stuff and allowing for us to have these AAA fully fleshed out beautiful experiences. I know there's someone out there saying, what about KOTOR? I'm like, shut up, dude. We can find tons of examples if you want to get nitty gritty about it. But I think clearly Batman Arkham Asylum is the beginning of a turning point. And it's, you look at games like Spider-Man on PS4 and PS5, it's like, yeah, we're here. We have games like that because of Batman Arkham, because it proved to companies like Sony, it's like, hey, you can go out and make deals with companies like Marvel or Lucas, or I'm basically just saying Disney over and over again, and get these great IP and then make wonderful AAA, high fidelity, next generation experiences. And while I am often on this podcast lamenting the loss of those cheap AA 8-month turn and burn style games, I also like these too. Listen, I like everything. I like things. Leave me alone. Don't be a dick. Batman's 15 years old? That doesn't make sense. That means his parents just died. Batman's a new orphan. Anyway, guys, welcome to Xbox On. Mike Clark writes in and says, Xbox On Podcast, your weekly Xbox group therapy section. Get it? EX-box, Xbox therapy session. Shadow about to KO COD. Well, in my house anyway. Let's fucking go. Of course, a reference to Sonic Generations Cross Shadow coming out the same day as Black Ops 6. What a fucking toss-up having to choose between those two games. But I'm with you, Mike Clark. Sonic Generations comes first. Black Ops 6 comes second. I'm sorry, zombies, but you're not the ultimate life form. Shadow the Hedgehog is, so fuck off. All right, guys, welcome to Xbox On. Really weird episode in the sense that I feel like we got a lot to talk about. Like I can talk. We got some things to talk about. A lot of really good games coming out this week. Like a lot of really good games. Tons of exciting things happening in the industry, but it's not like a news week. It's not the kind of week where we're gonna be like, and then Jeff Bezos said he was gonna play a video game, and then Phil Spencer said he was gonna make a game exclusive for Xbox, and then 7 minutes later announced it for PlayStation, and then this developer laid everyone off, and then this guy got fired for touching a woman inappropriately. Thankfully, that's not what we had to talk about this week. We just get to talk about video games. So lots of really exciting video games are coming out. I'm playing lots of video games. I'm in a video game style mood right now. Well, not right now as I'm recording, but I have been in a video game mood right now. I'm a little all over the place, to be completely honest with you. Right before I hit record today, I was running a load of laundry, and I guess the detergent sitting on the shelf above the washer machine just decided to jump the fuck off the ledge, and yeah, it just third eye blind itself and just threw itself all over the floor, and now I got laundry detergent everywhere on the walls and the floor in there, and I was trying to get home, stayed a little late at work, and then my work group thread was like, we're doing an NFL fantasy draft. And I was like, that sounds like fun. I don't know how football works. And they were like, too late, you're playing anyway. So I just had to draft every Arizona Cardinals player in like a matter of 10 minutes so that I could have a draft and a fantasy NFL team. I love, listen, first of all, preface, no knock against sports culture in the corporate workplace. The fact that men tend to bond over their shared love of sports. That's cool. Football's cool. People's love of sports and their deep knowledge and their fandom of it. I respect that. I appreciate it. And I'm glad it exists because it gives people a lot of place of belonging, a lot of community, and a lot of just personal happiness and entertainment. I'm not trying to knock any of that. But I gotta say, doing this fantasy football thing, this is so fucking silly, dude. We live in a world where I have to be closeted, practically, about the fact that I still love the emo music and I still love Sonic the Hedgehog, and I'm excited that they're building a Cars ride at Magic Kingdom, or the fact that I'm a 30-year-old bearded man who moved to Central Florida because he loves Walt Disney World so much. It doesn't have a child. He just really likes going to the theme park that much. I have to kind of tone that down in the corporate work environment because it's taboo for me to wear skinny jeans and listen to Yellow Card and want to go ride the fucking roller coaster for the millionth time with the Guardians of the Galaxy on it. That's got to get toned down because that's a little fucking weird. But grown-ass men with well-groomed haircuts with six-figure salaries can have a fucking ESPN app, also Disney, on their phone and fantasize about which recent college graduates they want to draft into a make-believe NFL team. I'm just saying, no knock against NFL, no knock against sports fandom or any of that. I think it's great. I love that people have that, and I can see the appeal. I see how this is like gamifying sports for the fans and how it's fun to engage with. Awesome. But why the fuck do we live in a world where one's like, you might want to tone that, hey, before you go into that job interview, you might want to cut your emo bangs and not mention how excited you are to ride Tiana's Bayou Adventure at the Magic Kingdom this summer. But I could go into a job interview and be like, how about them Tampa Bay Buccaneers, boy? Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How about that guy that's dating Taylor Swift that's in the NFL? Do we like him? I have things to say about him. I'm just saying. I just wish, I'm not saying that I wish sports culture was less prevalent. I'm just saying I wish we treated all types of subcultures equally in the professional work environment, because playing an hour or whatever today of fantasy football with a bunch of people at my work reminded me of how much this shit is just like video games, and it's silly. Why can't I go to when will I work for a company when my manager is like, bro, you playing Starfield? And I'll be like, yeah, I am very excited for Shattered Space. Anyway, just a weird anecdote. That's just kind of where my mind's at. But I am very excited about video games. I played a lot of video games this weekend. Excited to get into all of that with you guys today. Instead of being excited, let's just jump into it. Beginning this week with the notable game releases of the week. Now, generally, this is something we either skip over or fly through. But this week, I think we're going to spend a lot of time on this because there are some really notable games coming out this week. I think I counted 8 games of a list of like 20 plus that I'm like, shit, that game looks good and I want to play that, and I don't really care about that, but you have to notice it. You have to talk about it because it's a big game. So like we got a plethora, as they would say in Notre Dame, a plethora of games to talk about. So starting off at the top, first party Xbox shit, Age of Mythology retold, day one Game Pass, Xbox Game Studios, PC, Xbox, $50 US if you don't have Game Pass, and of course 7-day advance access if you pre-order the premium edition or you purchase the premium edition of the game. In any case, this game is out as the time you're already listening to this podcast. I know I've been saying for a long time, I don't really care about this game. These kinds of games don't do it for me. I think I'm going to give this game a try. This game, the more and more I see trailers for it, the more I'm like, you know what? I love strategy games. I feel like I just want to give this one a try because maybe just like how I used to write off Skyrim and say I don't like orcs and knights and dragons and swords. One day I finally tried Skyrim and I loved it. So I kind of want to give Age of Mythology Retold a try because I think, I love the genre. So there's a chance maybe I'm going to give it a try. I love RTS. I'm actually really grateful that of all the major players in the game space, especially the platform holders, Xbox still sees a lot of value and invests in the RTS genre, which I think just kind of goes back to the PC roots of Xbox and all the teams that they're affiliated with. But yeah, I love this. I'm excited that we're getting some of this, and I feel like I'm doing the industry and this genre a disservice by not at least downloading and trying it through my Game Pass subscription because I want to see more real-time strategy. If we lived in a world where there was less Elden Ring and more Halo Wars 2, maybe there'd be less, I don't know, I would like to think child poverty would be down. I would like to think we'd probably have a cure for measles and mumps, perhaps. I don't know. I just think these are things that we should have discussions about because you can say what you want, but you cannot deny that school shootings are up at the same time that From Software games, the number of releases from Software are also up. I'm not saying there's a correlation. I'm just saying in the same span of 10 plus, 20 plus years, really, at this point in American history, we have had a spike in school shootings and also a spike in From Software games releasing. All the while, the real-time strategy genre is like on the decline. So Lord of the Rings Return to Moria is the next game we got to talk about here. Now, this kind of falls in the category of I don't really give a shit, but it's worth mentioning. Lord of the Rings, a huge IP, a really beloved franchise, and now I actually don't remember anything about this. I think this is that survival crafting Lord of the Rings game, if I'm not mistaken. Weird. But whatever. It's, new Lord of the Rings game. Someone out there is super excited about that just because they love this universe and the lore and they want to exist in it in some fashion. So it's worth mentioning. But then after that, the only other game that I feel like we have to talk about that I don't really give a shit about, Smite 2. Hi-Rez Studios Smite 2. Now, I thought Smite 2 was already out. Am I wrong about that? Or is this some other edition of it? I don't know. But I actually played the first Smite game a couple of times. I always felt the need to try and appreciate just because Hi-Rez, the team that makes the game, is actually located literally 5 minutes down the road from where I grew up. And so I used to actually drive past their studio on the way from my parents' house to my girlfriend's house back when we were 18, 19, and we used to have to drive to each other's houses to see each other. And I just remember anytime I'd pass by, I'd think, that's the place where they make Smite. I don't really give a shit about Smite, but that's the place. And so I always just have this weird kind of hometown appreciation for this team. And so anytime I see something with Smite in the news, I'm like, hey, Smite. But also, I don't really give a shit about this game at all. Also, wasn't there some controversy around these guys recently? I don't know. Anyway, if you like MOBAs, if you're a fan of League of Legends style games, but in the third person perspective, that's cool. Games running on Unreal Engine 5. This game I feel was pretty notably big in 2015, 2014, 2015. I don't know if Smite 2 is going to be able to recapture that magic, but good for them that they have a sequel and that hopefully there's an audience for it and they can find success there. Now, this next game is a game that came out of left field, a game that I had no knowledge of its existence, but when I saw it this week, I said, this is immediately the most important video game coming out in the near future, and I care about it very deeply. And so this game comes out August 29th, Thursday, the day this podcast goes live, and it's great because I'm trying to get out of work a little early that day, and I think there's a good chance I'm going to go home and play this game immediately. And it is called Akimbot. Akimbo, but robot. Akimbot is the name of the game. And you're saying, Jesse, What's so special about this game? Well, let me read from you on Xbox Wire the little snippet, the little 2-sentence back of the box explanation of what the fuck this game is. In this 3D action adventure platformer, okay, let me repeat myself. In this 3D action adventure platformer, okay, let me add nuance. In this 3D action adventure platformer with no Souls-like mechanics, backtracking, puzzle solving, get good mechanics, parrying, dodge rolling, inventory management, crafting, survival, procedurally generated roguelite, Castlevania Metroid-like adventure. Note, it is a 3D action-adventure platformer. That sounds novel. You play as X, an outlaw robot with an unexpected sidekick, Shipset, as you blast your way through armies of robots, control spaceships, and forge your own path on a mission to save the universe from impending doom. Set in a sci-fi world where robots, or only robots exist, badass, travel the galaxy and experience a non-stop robot mayhem of explosive action. And then at the end it says, what is this? Black Myth, Wukong, and Wu-Tang, and Elden Ring. Oh, okay. It says it's just a list of things that are not included in the game. That's awesome. So this game, a couple things. So first of all, this game looks awesome. I read that. I saw the picture. I was like, oh, that sounds mildly interesting. I have an inclination to go watch a trailer for this game. So I watched a trailer and I said, wow, this kind of looks like an indie developer is trying to make Ratchet and Clank. It looks like it has crazy weapons and third-person shooting, but it's also an action-adventure platformer game. This looks like something that would live and breathe well in the PlayStation 2, OG Xbox, Nintendo GameCube era, which just so happens to be the greatest era of video games ever, not because those were the best consoles, but because I was in the appropriate age range to be incredibly nostalgic for that time period. So yes, that is the greatest time period for video games. The Game Boy Advance was awesome. If you don't agree with me, that means you're dumb. And so I said, you know what game this kind of reminds me of, and I don't know why, because it looks nothing like it, is Pumpkin Jack, that indie game that came out a couple Halloweens ago that was like super fucking awesome, that was like very medieval / Jack and Daxter inspired, again very PS2 era feeling. And lo and behold, guess who's fucking making this game? Akimbot. It is Evil Raptor, the same team that made Pumpkin Jack. So that's amazing. Pumpkin Jack was a phenomenal little fun Halloween mood type game. It's honestly, Pumpkin Jack, I'm gonna say, I've been saying it every year for the past 2 or 3 years since it came out. If you want to play something that gets you in the Halloween spirit this year and you have not played Pumpkin Jack, listen, this is not opinion, this is a fact. You are a fucking moron. Go play Pumpkin Jack. Stop being dumb. Tell your parents, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry I held this from you for so long, but I'm dumb. I have not played Pumpkin Jack. And then your mother will cry and your dad will say, how long have you known this without telling us? And you will have to sit down on an Xbox Series console and play Pumpkin Jack to atone for your sins. And Akimbot looks like it might be of a similar vein where I'm going to play this game, I'm going to love this game, and I'm going to get on this podcast and say, if you don't play Akimbot, you are dumb. Because if you like fun space sci-fi that just so happens to not be Star Wars for once in the goddamn universe, and you want to have a good time playing a game that is awesome and doesn't have parrying or dodge roll mechanics, then you should play Akimbot. And then I'm going to say that, and then you guys are going to play it only if you have big brains. So this game looks fucking awesome. I'm very, very excited about it. And yeah, I don't even know how much it costs. I assume it's probably $20 or $30. I don't give a shit if this game's $75. I'm playing it. I'm playing it this weekend. Fuck you, Black Ops 6. You can go eat a bag of Black Ops 6, and I will play Akimbot until my fingers turn blue, if that's an expression even. But yeah, game looks great. Ratchet and Clank meets just generic sci-fi robot explosion fun stuff, meets PS2 era Jack and Daxter Ratchet and Clank style adventure, meets my butt on the couch all weekend long. So Akimbot, you are welcome in my heart, and I cannot wait to hopefully have great things to say about you next week. Hopefully it doesn't disappoint. But that's like the first game on here. I'm like, shit, that sounds really... Age of Mythology, want to give it a try. Akimbot looks like the best game of the year. All right, what's up next? It can't be much else happening. I know there's that Black Ops 6 early access beta this weekend. Oh, fuck, I forgot. I got to play that all weekend. I already told my girlfriend, hey, good news. I don't want to go anywhere this weekend. I just want to stay home and play Black Ops 6. But now I got to play Black Ops 6 and Akimbot because that is the situation that Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, has put me in this weekend. So what's he done to you? So that's a situation. We got Black Ops 6. If you have Game Pass or you pre-order the game, you can play the early access beta this weekend, which actually I think goes live on Thursday. Maybe it's Friday. I had to double check. It's either the 29th or the 30th. So this Thursday or Friday. And then that runs to like Tuesday. It's like a 5-day long period, I think. But in any case, so Black Ops 6. Okay, so a lot of players are going to get in on that. Obviously, lots of streamers are going to be playing this game this weekend. It's going to be kind of the talk of the town for the next week or two as far as, what streamers and what content creators are talking about because it's Black Ops 6. Okay, so that's a huge fucking deal. Okay, well, so gotta play Black Ops, gotta play Akimbot. What else? Oh, fuck you, Jesse. Monster Jam Showdown comes out this week. So Monster Jam Showdown is the first monster truck game in a long time that actually looks really exciting because it's being made by none other than Milestone, which is that Italian developer that's made those recent Hot Wheels Unleashed 1 and 2 video games that have been so superb, and they are available on Game Pass, so play them if you haven't already, but they're phenomenal arcade racers that are definitely meant for 30, 40-year-old men who grew up loving things like Hot Wheels and Monster Jam, and not so much the 10-year-olds today that might enjoy these, although obviously if you're a kid, you probably like these games as well. But yeah, Monster Jam Showdown looks like the first really good monster truck game in a very long-ass time, and I very much would like to play this game as well. So, another setback. A fun monster truck game, off-roading, giant trucks, doing flips on dirt mountains, and looking like looking like Gravedigger and all that stuff, and it would be a fun way to spend the weekend. So you got Monster Jam Showdown, you got Akimbot, you got Black Ops 6, and you got 2.5 days to make it all happen. What will you do this weekend, I ask you? But that's not all. Visions of Mana comes to Xbox this weekend, or actually on Thursday, the 29th. So another game worth mentioning. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and pretend I'm super excited about Visions of Mana. I'm not going to play this, but this is a remastering of these classic JRPGs that is a great way to add some JRPG support to the Xbox platform, which desperately needs it, as well as also preserving these beloved classics. So this is another important and notable game release this week. And then finally, just fucking finally, we have possibly the biggest game release of the week, and actually definitely the biggest game release of the week, because it would be Black Ops 6, but Black Ops 6 is only releasing in early access mode. So this is the actual full game release this week that is the most notable thing worth talking about, and you probably already saw the middling reviews for it, but hey, here we are. Star Wars Outlaws. Speaking of sci-fi that can't be anything other than Star Wars because we have no creativity anymore, we just have nostalgia. Star Wars Outlaws is out this Friday for Xbox Series S and X, and you know what? I stand by what I have said since the day they announced this game. This game looks really fucking cool, and I really want to give it a try. But after watching, I'm not going to lie, after watching Mr. Matty Plays on YouTube do his review on this game, I'm very, very tepid on it now. Not because people are saying, oh, it's a little buggy, there's some crashes and sound glitches and things like that. I don't care. They'll patch that shit out. I can wait a couple weeks and it'll be fixed. Not because people are like, oh, it's Ubisoft and Ubisoft sucks and we have to hate on Ubisoft. No, I don't care. Not because there's a small minority of stupid men on this in the corner of the internet who are like, female protagonist, woke Star Wars, let's review bomb it. I don't give a shit about any of that. This game has turned me off. It's gone from, I really, really want to play this game. It looks like a really great way to enjoy Star Wars for the first time in a long time, to I don't want to play it because apparently the game is like, despite being open-ended and open world, shoehorns the player into playing in a stealthy way. And when you acquire other weapons, the game makes you get rid of them quickly afterwards. You only get a pistol for the most part, and you have to approach combat encounters from a stealthy perspective. And if you get caught, it will make you revert back to a checkpoint like you're playing a PlayStation 2 game, and then make you retry until you complete the encounter in a stealthy manner. Now, maybe I was misinterpreting the information being presented, but listen, if this game is not a game where I can walk into any combat situation and be like, fuck stealth. Stealth is dumb. Stealth is for people who do not play Pumpkin Jack on the Xbox Series X. And then I can't just go guns a-blazing and blast my Star Wars way through my Star Wars universe. Then the game is ostensibly useless to me. I don't care how GTA in space it is. I don't care how many planets I can seamlessly fly to. If you were going to force me to play this game stealthily, then that is a dumb game, and I do not want to play it. So I will still probably give Star Wars Outlaws a try, but it's going to be either through that Ubisoft Plus whatever subscription thing, or when this game inevitably comes to Xbox Game Pass in the next 8 to 12 months. So I don't know. It's also just that, like, the Star Wars Outlaws, it does look very good, but it is also asking you for $70 at a time where we're about to get Shattered Space, we're about to get Black Ops 6, we're about to get Sonic Generations, we just got Akimbot, the best sci-fi game in the world. We're also just drowning in so many good games to play. It's not that Star Wars Outlaws isn't worth $70. I don't know the answer to that. It's not that Star Wars Outlaws doesn't look like a good game. It does look like a pretty good game for all intents and purposes, looking at the whole product from what I can tell. It's just, oh man, we're at the point where there's too much to play. Decisions have to be made. Something's going to be left on the cutting room floor. And unfortunately, it's going to be woke Star Wars with its stupid female protagonist ruining Star Wars. Star Wars never had women in it. Yeah, right. Fun fact for all you stupid, dumb Star Wars fans that only like the George Lucas stuff. George Lucas said in a 1984 interview that actually in the first Star Wars movie, Chewbacca is a woman. And you only don't know that because they retconned it in one of the many DVD and VHS remasters of the film. So don't you feel so stupid now for loving Chewbacca all these years, knowing secretly Chewbacca is a girl. And as we all know, because we're all adult men in the room here, that if you're a guy and you like a girl character, that means you're gay. So now you have to paint your fingernails pink, I guess. Fucking idiot. All right. Nice and non-aggressive this week. I like it. That is it for all the notable game releases of the week. So we got Age of Mythology, Akimbot, Monster Jam Showdown, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and then you can tentatively throw Star Wars Outlaws in there. That's 5 more games in a week where I couldn't even beat one game to get on top of my backlog a little bit more. So I mean, we as gamers are constantly drowning. We're constantly being covered in this avalanche. This is exactly why, like, I'm glad that a lot of people have adopted the mentality and understand and are respectful towards the idea of, like, oh, a video game got delayed. That's okay. There's plenty of other good stuff to play, and I just want them to take their time and make the best game they can make. And I'm glad that sentiment has been widely adopted and understood by the majority of gamers out there, because this stuff is exactly why. It's like, how could you be mad that Avowed got delayed by a couple months when this week alone we were given like 5, 8, 20 new video games to just like get lost in? It's like, okay, how does anyone, unless you're like a trust fund baby who's also a hardcore gamer, how the hell do you find the time to keep up with this shit, So I'm just grateful for all the good stuff we got coming our way. Very excited for Akimbot. Holy shit, that game looks so good. All right, guys, let's transition into our corrections. Nope, just kidding. Not corrections. There are no corrections. I got everything right. I already fact-checked myself. Everything I said last week was 100% right. Okay, mildly amusing stories, updates, appetizer-esque stories, if you will. Beginning with this one about Crash Bandicoot 5, because it is, we knew this, but now we have, like, concrete details and evidence. And so, here we go. From VGC, a new report claims that a Crash Bandicoot 5 was in full development at Toys for Bob, but it was canceled due to Activision pulling back on funding for single-player titles in favor of live service multiplayer games like Call of Duty. According to a new report from the gaming historian Liam Robertson, that's that Unseen 64 guy on YouTube, the game, which was in very early stages of production, was canceled following what Activision considered as muted sales for Crash Bandicoot 4: It's About Time. I think that came out in 2019. Around the same time, it's claimed that Activision shut down pitches for other sequels to single-player titles like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Fuck you, Activision. The report claims that following Toys for Bob's work on Spyro Reignited trilogy, the company reconceptualized a multiplayer Crash title, or they conceptualized a multiplayer Crash game, before deciding to take the work that they had done for that multiplayer title and use it to build a new single-player entry in the Crash franchise. This would eventually lead to Crash 4. Following the release, though, Toys for Bob set a small group of developers to the task of envisioning a future for the series, a project that would be referred to internally as Crash Bandicoot 5. This would have been a single-player 3D platformer and a direct sequel to Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, the sources claim. The report then contains alleged concept art and of a proposed story concept for the unannounced game, which includes the game taking place at a school for villainous children, featuring returning villains from previous games. That sounds cool. One supposed concept even saw Crash team up with Spyro following an interdimensional threat to both worlds. According to the report, Crash and Spyro were intended to be the two playable characters, so kind of like Crash, what was the one, the Twinsanity, was that it? Yeah? Weren't there like 2 Crash and Spyro crossover games in like the late PS2 era, right? Anyway, Crash Titans and Crash Twinsanity, I got that right? Spyro, I don't know, remember. Anyway, but yeah, man. I mean, we kind of knew this. There were people who worked on the game who've been kind of talking about this not so privately in recent weeks, and we knew that was more or less the case. That's what happened with Tony Hawk as well, is that Vicarious Visions made that amazing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 HD remake, whatever, and then it did really well, and Activision said, wow, this did really well, people really liked it, but Call of Duty does better, so go do Nicki Minaj skins for Fortnite, or not Fortnite, Call of Duty Warzone, which is even worse than Fortnite. Fuck you, Warzone. And then, they got put into the internment camp for Call of Duty development support. Actually, no, they got folded into Blizzard to do support work on Diablo, which is even worse because I like Call of Duty more than Diablo. Wow, Activision, you suck, Activision. Wow, Xbox, you suck because you own Activision. Fuck you, Xbox. I'm going to go play Akimbot on my Nintendo Switch. Speaking of Nintendo Switch, I got to do a side note. I had you know how like they say like pregnant women will get like cravings for food and like they have to have it? You know, like there's that episode of Full House where John Stamos's wife character is pregnant and she's like, ooh, I want watermelon now. And then like John Stamos has to get her watermelon because she's pregnant. And if a pregnant woman tells you she wants something, she has to get it. That is how I felt this week, where I just had a random craving to finally play Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 because I fucking love Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2. And then when the third game was announced and it was a Nintendo Switch only game, I got very upset because I wanted to play it on Xbox. And then I remember I didn't play it. And then this week I remembered, oh my God, that game exists and I still haven't played it. And now I very much want to play Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. But that would require me playing my Nintendo Switch. And now back to Crash Bandicoot 5. So, this sucks. But it's also exactly what we expected. I think this is kind of the stuff that paints some of the picture of why when Xbox acquired Activision, Toys for Bob and Xbox were able to make this agreement where they parted separate ways. I think you can look at things like this story of Crash Bandicoot 5 not happening with Activision, to Microsoft acquiring Activision, to Microsoft parting ways with Toys for Bob, to Microsoft shutting down studios like Tango Gameworks after the success of Hi-Fi Rush, which is that Microsoft now inherits that same need for mass success the way Activision has had it when they were independent, where it's like when you are the team responsible for feeding Game Pass, for continuing the success and the scale of a game like Call of Duty, when you were the team responsible for maintaining things like Overwatch and Diablo and Halo and Sea of Thieves and these games that are huge and are live service and they have crazy big names and they sell millions and millions of copies and they have live service components and they have millions of players playing them concurrently and all these things, right? Or, millions of players playing them, I should say. Not concurrently. That's not how that works. But when you are that company, it's like a game like Crash Bandicoot 4, which would be a smash success for a small publisher or an independent developer, or maybe even like a mid-tier publisher, just doesn't fucking make business sense for someone like Activision or someone like Xbox now. And this is why, the same reason why Xbox could easily part with Toys for Bob and say, spin off, go be your own independent developer. We'll go fund a project for you and we'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll do something together, but maybe we'll split off after that and not do that. Is because It doesn't make business sense for Xbox to fund a studio like Toys for Bob for 3 to 4 years so they can make a game like Crash Bandicoot 4 so it can sell 2 to 4 million copies and have a small return on investment for a small project when really their focus and efforts needs to be fixated on the next Call of Duty, and then the next Call of Duty after that, and the next Call of Duty after that, and the flat subscription numbers of Game Pass, and the fact that they're butchering the fuck out of Halo, and that Halo 5 doesn't have a proper narrative follow-up, and Overwatch, because they own that shit now, and, whatever, Starfield, and big IP games that are going to draw lots of attention, like Indiana Jones and Blade, and they have to focus on big fish because there is just no room for a Toys for Bob, for a Crash Bandicoot, for a Hi-Fi Rush to breathe in a world where Call of Duty comes first. And hey, just a little reminder, a little weekly reminder, when you were sitting there tweeting with your little thumbs about how Xbox will buy Activision, the FTC will kneel before Xbox, whatever. Ooh, big business over fucking regulation, whatever. When we were all championing that shit, this is the kind of stuff we were championing. Yeah, less Crash Bandicoot 5, no new Tony Hawk games, no creative new independent ideas, no small-scale games, no single-player content. We want Call of Duty, we want Halo, we want Sea of Thieves, we want live service, we want big multiplayer games, we want microtransactions. Yay, microtransactions. That's what we were, But Jesse, there are single player games. What about Starfield? What about Indiana Jones? Yeah, there's room for there is still room for single player games, but it has to be that cream of the crop, top 1%, penetrate the majority of the market, buy all the fucking mind share in the industry when it comes out type of single player game. So it has to be like a Sony first party, like a Last of Us or God of War or Spider-Man, or if you're Xbox, it has to be something like a Starfield or Skyrim or Fallout or something like that. It has to be that game, that water cooler, take the world by storm, dare I say, Elden Ring style game. Yeah, you can make single player games if you're going to make something that does that kind of business. But you can't be Toys for Bob making Spyro the Dragon, because that was cute in 1999 when we were selling 1 million or 2 million copies and everyone was happy because it was the 90s and things were fucking awesome and Warped Tour was around. But it doesn't really make sense in a world where, okay, Crash Bandicoot 5, but Call of Duty sells 20, 30 million units, and Call of Duty sells Nicki Minaj, Ziggy Azalea, Hot Ones, the bald guy from Hot Ones skins. You want to play as the fucking bald guy from Sean Evans from Hot Ones. I can't sell a Last Dab t-shirt in Crash Bandicoot 5, but I could probably put it on a fucking AK-47 in Call of Duty and sell it for $20 to some fucking 7th grader. Okay. So business decisions have to get made. And games like Crash Bandicoot 5 do not happen. But the good news is, and here's the silver lining, and I say this with full sarcasm in tow. We don't get Crash Bandicoot 5 because Crash Bandicoot 5 can't sell like Call of Duty. But don't worry, the IP is in the hands of Xbox, an owner who will never relinquish that IP. I love it. I love that, for as much as I do love Xbox and Disney World and stuff, I do love that corporations like Microsoft and Disney are like the ones holding all the best IP hostage as they butcher them religiously. They're like, we can't fucking do anything right with Star Wars or Spider-Man, but we won't let anyone else work on them. It's like, okay, just keep making. Yeah, no, Tom Holland is better than Tobey Maguire. Keep doing that. Keep that up, Sony. Keep that up, fucking whoever you are. Anyway, Crash Bandicoot 5. And then It's About Time, and the Villains Academy, the school, not going to happen. Tony Hawk, not going to happen. Vans Warped Tour, it's been dead for years. Get over it, Jesse. How do you mention Vans Warped Tour this many times in a podcast published in August 2024? It makes no goddamn sense, especially when the podcast isn't even about music. It's about Xbox. It's about Xbox. Actually, I would say it's not about Xbox. It's about time. Boom, full circle. Fuck you. All right, let's get on to the PS5. Speaking of platforms that do better than Xbox. We don't need to read this story. I just want to note this. So I feel like I'd be remiss. Last week I felt a little silly that I didn't talk about this at all. Black Myth Wukong is a game that is clobbering, and I just wanted to mention it. So this is that new game from, what are they called? God, the Chinese studio that made the game. I forget what they're called. But Black Myth Wukong is the latest Souls-like game. And I'm going to stop being silly about the Souls-like games so we can talk about this sincerely. Man, it's really driving me nuts. I can't remember their fucking name. But anyway, this game's a huge deal because it's made by Game Science. That's right. Okay, so they're a Chinese-based game developer that historically has made like mobile games and stuff. But now that a lot of Chinese developers are starting to get familiar with working on home consoles and PC and doing work outside like the mobile space and stuff. This game is pretty notable because it is a AAA, high fidelity, nice looking, Souls-like game for PlayStation 5 and PC. And now keep in mind, this game is coming to Xbox at a later date. And it's really notable because apparently it's a really great game and people really, really love it. It's doing really well. In fact, the game is doing so gosh darn well that what was it? Like within hours of release, it had like 2 or 3 million concurrent players on Steam within the first couple hours of it coming out. Like it's insane. The game is doing so well. I think it sold they said it sold like 30 million copies already. And now keep in mind, this isn't just because like people in the Western Hemisphere are going nuts for it. Like this is the Chinese market responding to Western style AAA video games coming from their developers in that market, and it's doing really, really well. So the game is selling like crack. PS5s are apparently selling out in stores all throughout China because people are desperately trying to get their hands on these things so they can play this game. And the game is doing phenomenally well on Steam. And I wanted to stop and mention this because the game is coming to Xbox, but at a later date. And it's like, Xbox, how many times do we need to make this mistake, buddy? Is this going to happen every year now? Is that every year the hottest game of the year is going to come out of nowhere and just so happen to be released on PlayStation 5 6 to 10 months before Xbox? Like, what is going on here? This is Baldur's Gate 3 all over again. And it's just like, you would think, especially with the Chinese market being so nascent in the home console space, like you would want to be all over that fucking market, working with those developers, throwing money at them, throwing resources in people at them, saying, what can we do to get this game on Xbox day and date with PlayStation? What can we do to make sure this game does not release on Xbox down the road well after the PlayStation and PC hype has died down? Like, why does this keep happening, Xbox? And right now the story is PlayStation 5s are flying off the shelves in China, and the story everywhere else is Xbox hardware sales are tanking. Like, come on, man, as we're putting Indiana Jones on PS5. So, like, I don't know, man. I feel like it's got to be said, like, this game is such a smash hit success. And it's such an important time to be there to support the Chinese market and also to support the Xbox ecosystem by saying, like, hey, we take these big games, these notable hot releases seriously, and we want our players to be able to have these. But right now, there are tons of people on Xbox who would probably love to play this game, and there are tons of people who would probably be interested in buying an Xbox if this game were available on it. But that is not happening right now because Black Myth Wukong is, for the time being, a PC PlayStation exclusive because Xbox, once again, didn't have their shit together. I understand Xbox gets short-shifted with a lot of these games, especially from Eastern developers, where it's like, we know our game isn't for your market as much as it is for our market, so we're going to prioritize other platforms over you, Xbox. But when you have Microsoft money, when you're the Call of Duty people, you might want to throw a couple people or a few dollars someone's way to make sure that Xbox doesn't have to miss out and get a second-class citizen kind of treatment as it pertains to this game. And that's just something. I mean, here we are for the second year in a row experiencing this exact same problem. Awesome, Xbox. Really, really cool stuff, man. Can't wait to play that new Indiana Jones game on my PlayStation 5. But just wanted to mention that I have no opinions about the game. I would never play this game in a million years. I know it's based on, like, the lore or the history behind it is based on really, really famous Chinese folklore. And so I'm sure for that market, it's pretty cool. It's like something that everyone knows about. And apparently it's a very, very competent Souls-like game. So good for them. Congrats to Game Science and everyone on this game. It seems like it's a great game that's doing quite well and being well received. But unfortunately, Xbox is just high and dry as always. So, all right. Let's stop being dour and talk about something very exciting. This one broke right before we started recording, and I'm just very much looking forward to this. But Argonaut Games, a team you probably haven't heard of or thought of in a million years, has been revived. And they have announced their first game now that they are a revived team. And it is none other than a remaster of Croc, Legends of Gobos. I never knew if that was Gobos, which will be released later in the year. The game will come to PC and console in 2024, but no specific date's been shared. We'll get into this in a second, but let me just read the quote. I worked closely with Argonaut founder Jez San on the design and production of Starglider, Argonaut's first big game back in 1986, said the CEO, Gary Schenwald. So to take up the mantle of relaunching Argonaut games nearly 4 decades later brings it full circle for me. And we have further exciting announcements in the pipeline in the coming months. Further Argonaut game titles are also planned for revival, but those have yet to be announced. Croc and the Legend of Gobos, Argonaut's 1997 multi-million selling hit, features Croc, a lovable crocodile who embarks on a quest to rescue the Gobos from the clutches of evil Baron Dante, reads the press release. So this is a game I have not thought about in a long time, and this is, like people say, oh, a core memory was unlocked. Yeah, core memories were unlocked seeing this game get re-announced or get announced for remaster. I loved Croc. We had this on PS1 back in the day, and I remember loving this game. As someone who grew up cutting their teeth on Mario and Spyro, games like Croc were like this kind of second-tier character platformer adventures that just like really did it for me. Like Pac-Man World Adventure, Croc, not Thai Tasmanian Devil. What is it? God, what was that one? I forget. But anyway, almost naming Looney Tunes characters out here. Anyway, but like these second, third tier kind of character platformer games that were super big in the PS1, PS2 era are so nostalgic to me. And man, I remember Croc so well. This was like an additional Spyro game essentially for me growing up. And to know that this is getting a remaster, I'm excited to see how this game holds up and what it's like, but I will 100% pick this up and be very excited to experience this game again. Like watching the trailer, watching that like boss battle with the ladybug enemy and stuff, I was like, oh my god, I remember exactly all of this. I remember sitting in the living room in 1999 playing this on the family PS1 and being like blown away by this shit as a kid. I cannot believe they're bringing this game back. So it's super exciting. It's super cool. And I just want to shout that out. It's super awesome. So Argonaut, a developer from the UK, they shut down in like 2004 according to Wikipedia. And they were entirely dissolved by 2007. So they were kind of hitting hard times in that late GameCube, PS2, Xbox era, headed into the 360, PS3 generation. And a lot of the team members that got laid off or that were part of the dissolved Argonauts team went on to form a new developer, and this will bring it full circle. So Argonaut, a lot of those ex-employees formed a new team in the years following the dissolving and the layoffs, and became a new developer known as Rocksteady Studios, which is the team that makes the Batman Arkham games and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. But, we talked about Batman Arkham Asylum at the top of the show, and now here we are bringing it back around with the formation of Rocksteady being all these ex-guys. I didn't know that. To me, that's a cool thing in gaming history to have learned about today. I loved Croc growing up. I love Batman Arkham. This makes sense. The same fucking Brits that made one made the other. Of course. How could I not see it before? Batman is basically just a retooled version of Croc the Crocodile. No, but all silliness aside, like, that's really cool. I didn't know that piece of history. And I'm glad that they were able to reform it as a different studio and go on to do something far more impactful and successful for them with Rocksteady, which is awesome. But yeah, it's cool to see Argonaut is back. It's cool to see that Croc is getting a remaster, and I hope people support this and pick this up because this is a really fun character platformer from back in the day that I'm very much excited to see be accessible again to people through modern consoles. So I will definitely be picking this baby up. Finally, just to harp on something again, more skip Xbox treatment. Capcom announced another fighting collection, the Capcom Fighting Collection 2, which will be released next year and include the following games: Capcom vs. SNK, Capcom vs. SNK 2, Project Justice, Capcom Fighting Evolution, Street Fighter Alpha 3 Upper, Plasma Sword Nightmare of Bilstein, Power Stone 1 and 2. The compilation will be released on Switch, PlayStation 4, and PC next year. But no Xbox version, just like the Marvel vs. Capcom thing. Boo. So, again, I have nothing really to say here other than just like, wow, Xbox. I can't wait to play Indiana Jones 5 on my PS circle, whatever the fuck we're saying at this point. Yeah, it's disheartening. At least we have Halo Infinite Season 7 to look forward to, whatever the fuck they're doing over there. But guys, that's going to do it for all of our opening news stories this week. Let's move in to the news. But before we do that, we go into the what it is I've been playing, what I've been playing this week. But before I can tell you about what I've been playing, I got to tell you all about what it is I've been eating. I don't have anything super exciting to talk about this week as far as what I've been eating. It mostly just stayed home this whole past week. I haven't really gone anywhere, eaten anything interesting. But on Sunday, my girlfriend was like, I'm really craving steak. And I'm like, I really don't think we should make steak. I just kind of wanted to buy a loaf of bread and make a sandwich. And so I said, how about we combine the two ideas? So I went down to the Publix and I looked for like the cheapest cut of steak they had, whatever. And I just picked up a little 2-pack of steaks. Got some mushrooms, some broccoli, whatever. I have some ingredients at home. I got some arugula. And so I made her a little plate of like, okay, here's like your broccoli, your mushrooms, your steak that you wanted. That's for her, whatever, right? Made her steak. And I said, for my steak, I don't fucking feel like eating a steak. And so I had this genius idea, like those TikTok, YouTube shorts kinds of videos where it's like Gordon Ramsay or some fucking YouTube influencer chef. He's like, here's how to make a gourmet steak sandwich, blah, 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 whatever. I just tried to like wing something based on that. And I made one hell of a fucking badass steak. So I had like this cheap cut of strip steak meat. Wasn't super fatty at all. And just seasoned it real good with salt and pepper. Threw that bitch aside. And then I took a roll of French bread, like a Publix's French bread that they make in house. So I took a roll of that, and then I made a sauce for it by just shredding up some garlic, mixing mayo and mustard, salt, pepper, parsley, whatever, just mixing it all together, trying to make some kind of like mayo-based sauce. Throw some arugula on top, and then I grilled up the steak. I cut into slices, put it on the French bread. I toasted the French bread, put sauce on both sides, steak down, I torched some provolone cheese over it so it got all nice and melty. And then separate from that, I took a bunch of mushrooms and white onions, chopped it all up really fine, sauteed it for so fucking long that it caramelized, and then threw that shit on top. So it's like strip steak, French bread, homemade sauce, mayo, mustard based sauce, mushrooms, onions, all caramelized and nice and cooked up, fresh arugula, cut that bitch in half. This sandwich, I don't know if I'm using this word correctly, was bussin'. I worked in restaurants for 10 years, so if you said, wow, that sandwich is bussin', they would think that the bus boy is going to go clean table 12 and get it set up for the next set of customers. But no, this sandwich was bussin'. It was driving the bus that had me going to fucking heart disease town because this thing was phenomenal. So I just want to give a shout out to the steak sandwich. I know, generally speaking, a good steak doesn't need much. You just season it well, cook it right, enjoy, right? But sometimes it's fun to fuck around with steak. Take a nice cut, because I'm used, you're used to like a Philly cheesesteak or something where like you chop the meat up so much that it's like, it's like cheap cut. You chop it up nice and thin. You make it into a sandwich, whatever. It's like ground meat basically. But there's something nice about taking a decent steak and cooking it right, like the way you're supposed to eat a steak entree, and then putting that bitch on a sandwich. That's like, it's like so wrong it's right. I wouldn't do it normally. More often than not, I would eat the steak on its own. But getting to eat it on a sandwich was a pretty fun experience, and I would make this again. It was very good. So shout out to the steak sandwich. It's such a weird combination of like a fancy indulgent food with like a super casual kind of meal. And I would make this again. I would tweak the sauce a little bit. I feel like I could do something even better with the sauce if I could elevate that sauce. But otherwise, I think I made it pretty well. It's pretty good. So that's it for what I've been eating. That was my cheat meal for Sunday this weekend. Now into the what I have been playing. So I've been a little all over the fucking road with video games this week. So started out this weekend, finished up Cars Mater National Championship Edition. I don't have much more to say about this game. Finished it up. I did all the things in the game. I didn't get all the achievements because there's like some little collectibles and stuff I missed, but like I did every mission, I explored the open worlds, whatever. Very fun game. We talked about Batman Arkham and how it kind of made licensed games more serious and matured them and made them more AAA and more of a serious offering in the industry. I do miss the cheap licensed movie stuff as well, and Cars Mater National is such a superb example of that. It is such a great, cheap, budgety licensed movie game, and I just wish we still had some stuff like this from time to time. But really enjoyed that game. Finished it up. Not much more to say about it. Still in the mood for racing after that. Very much in the mood for like off-road shit. I don't know why. I think it's because that new Cars ride we're getting at Disney World is all about like off-road. It's like the off-road version of Cars. They got their XRS, as they call it in the Cars universe. They got their off-road tires on, their adventure climbing and shit. So I'm like, I want to do some off-road racing stuff. So go to Game Pass, and I downloaded Dirt 5 again. I played this game a year or two ago. Played it a little more this weekend. I was like, God, Dirt 5 is very good. I feel like I could play a lot of this game. It's just that every time I play Dirt 5, I go, man, I feel like I should just kind of be playing Forza. And so I said, fuck it, let me jump back over to Forza 5. It's been a minute. And then I was like, oh, wait, Forza 5 got that rally racing expansion like 2 years ago or whatever. I should totally play that. It turns out I don't have the pass. I thought I had the pass for Forza Horizon 5. I don't. So I didn't want to spend $10 on the rally racing DLC. So instead of doing some Subaru WRX off-road racing, I just said, hey, I never finished up all the Hot Wheels content in Forza Horizon 5. So I jumped into the Hot Wheels DLC in Forza Horizon 5, played a handful of hours of that, and really that basically ate my entire Sunday away. I basically spent all Sunday playing Forza Horizon 5. Very, very fun time. I always go through these phases, you know, like where I don't give a shit about cars, and then all of a sudden it's like, I need to watch Cars 1, 2, and 3 on repeat, then I need to play Forza for 20 hours, and then I need to wear 2 Hot Wheels t-shirts at the same time, and then go pick up drive-through food in a car. And I get so like excited about automobiles for a little bit. So I was going through one of those phases this weekend, just wearing my fucking Hot Wheels t-shirts, being a grown-ass man, and playing lots of Forza, and it was a grand old time. So I did that, and then I said, you know what, I should probably try to tick off something in my backlog that's really short, something that's like maybe 4 hours or so before next weekend, because I know next weekend there's a lot of games coming out I want to play. So I went to Game Pass. I said, oh yeah, Open Roads. That game came out recently. I've been meaning to play that. Open Roads is the new kind of walking sim adventure game from, well, it's not Fulbright, but it's the team at Fulbright, the guys that made Gone Home and Tacoma. So this is their latest game. They released it under the team name Open Roads Development Team. I know there's some controversy behind the scenes about their founder, Steve Gaynor, about him leaving, and about, I don't know, there's like some controversy there. So I don't know what's happening to that team, but they released it kind of like posthumously as Open Roads Team. I don't know if they're breaking up or shutting down the studio. I don't know. But I loved Tacoma, and I loved Gone Home a lot. I really love Gone Home. I think that game's phenomenal. I know people like to laugh about the walking sim type genre and like, oh, these games are only like 3 hours and there's no mechanics. You just walk around, you just read stuff, and you know, whatever. I love these games. I think they're really great, especially when done really well. And so I had just blind expectations that Open Roads was going to be awesome, that I was going to love it. And then I looked it up on how long to beat, and it said it was like less than 3 hours long. So I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I'll knock this out in a Sunday afternoon. It'll be great. I made about 45 minutes into this game, which is, you know, like a third of the way through it. And had to put it down. I don't know if I'll ever come back to it, but I was not feeling this game at all. It just felt like, I don't know, it felt like every walking sim game I've ever played before mixed with Life is Strange. And I'm like, I just feel like I kind of played this. It's like the hip alternative chick, and she's, we're moving, grandma passed away, and now me and mom have to move, we're poor and we don't have a lot of money, but we're gonna go on this road trip, and oh, I'm cool, I don't want to get married, I want to be a rebel, I'm a free spirit hippie, I like hippie shit, oh, here's my best friend back home, I'll write to her every day. I don't know, it's like that young girl free spirited hippie shit that I'm like, this is cool, there's a time and place for this, but I kind of feel like I'm just playing Life is Strange without the superpowers, and I don't really feel like I need to do that again. So, like, I don't know, I made like 45 minutes into the game. Your absent father's being a piece of shit, and you're exploring some trailer home with your mom. And I'm like, you know what, Open Roads, how about I open a new door and play a different game? So, just wasn't feeling it. Maybe I'll come back to it. I'm sure I'll appreciate it if I force myself to sit down and experience it all. But the art style was weird, too, because, like, you're playing it in this 3D, you know, stylized artistic world, but then all the characters are, like, comic book cutout looking things, and it just feels weird. I don't love it. So the game wasn't speaking to me, so I just had to next. You know, sometimes that's what you do on Game Pass. You treat it like Tinder, and you just go next, and you swipe left, and you move on to the next game. And so in this case, I said, Well, I don't think I'll play this game all in one weekend, but I would like to give Contrast a try, which is the first game from Compulsion Games, the guys that made We Happy Few, which didn't work for me, it just wasn't my game, and the guys behind South of Midnight, their new upcoming first-party Xbox game, which looks so fucking good. It's probably my most anticipated game of next year, aside from Avowed. So yeah, I said, let me try Contrast. Cronky's been telling me forever that I will love this game. I know it's actually a platformer, and I know it got a lot of rave reviews back when they were a small indie studio that released this as their first game back in, 2014? So this game's been in the backlog for a while, so I booted it up. I'll be honest, I only got like 30 minutes in, and then I fell asleep, and then it was Monday, and ever since then I've been at work, basically. But those first 30 minutes, I was like, okay, from a gameplay perspective, this game is very unique, very creative, very fun. I like it a lot. It's got that weird French-Canadian Cirque du Soleil kind of vibe going on with it. Weird shadow lady where you're with this little girl and the little girl can see you and you're a shadow and you can jump into the walls and move through the night on shadow objects, but other people don't see you, and it's really cool. It's kind of creepy and vibey. It's got just that weird like Voodoo Vince Coraline kind of vibey, not necessarily hoary, but kind of somewhat adjacent gothic feel to it. And it's really cool. I really like it a lot. I definitely want to play more of it. I just don't have a whole lot to say about it, just being 30 minutes in. But so far, I think that mechanic of being able to jump into the shadows, like you move around a 3D space as in a platform environment, but then there'll be these platforming challenges you need to do where it's like, okay, I cannot get up to that ledge, but that lamppost has a reflection on the brick wall, and then that haystack has a reflection that lines up with it. So what I'll do is I'll merge into the wall as a shadow, climb the lamppost, jump over the hay barrel, and then get to that ledge I can't reach. And then when I get to that ledge, I can pull out of the walls. My shadow can pull out of the walls, and I'll turn back into like a 3D human into the 3D world. Very similar to Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds, but with more of like a platforming twist on it, as opposed to just like a puzzle solving twist. So I really loved Zelda: Link Between Worlds on 3DS. I thought that was one of my favorite Zelda games when I played it back then. And that mechanic is very strong here in this game as a 3D action platformer. So really, really enjoying this game so far. Probably going to put it down for a while, though, and play through Akimbot and Black Ops 6 and some other games. But I will definitely come back to Contrast because this is going to be a perfect, like, lay in bed with the streaming handheld and just kind of play, a little bit at a time at night. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing so far, but that's Contrast. So Cars Made International, Forza Horizon 5, Dirt 5, Contrast, Open Roads. Those are the 5 games I've been playing this week, and that's really it. That's it for what I've been playing. Steak Sandwich, Forza Horizon 5, love it. Good weekend. God, I can't wait to get back to it all. All right, let's take a quick break here, and then we'll hop into the news this week, you guys. There's not too much going on, but we'll jump in and talk about Avowed a little bit. So here's a quick break. Okay, let's jump into the news. Really, there's only like one big thing to talk about, and then like something kind of not small, but like it's more like bullet point next thing. So let's get into this Avowed news here. So from VGC, their write-up reads, upcoming Obsidian RPG Avowed is targeting 30 frames per second, according to the game's art director. Speaking on the Iron Lords podcast, art director Matt Hansen called 30 frames per second the bare minimum the team is aiming for. He says, quote, it's a first-person single-player game. You don't necessarily need that 60 frames per second. And that allows us to get a lot juicier with the visual effects and the lighting and all that other stuff, Hansen said. It's a trade-off we opted to make relatively early, and we're really happy with that. The game's running pretty smooth and for how visually dense it is, and that was always our goal. End quote. Originally scheduled for release later this year, Avowed will now be available in 2025. Xbox planned for a 2024 release, with a blog post by developer Obsidian accidentally releasing a November 12th date before being removed. However, a message posted on the official Xbox account on Twitter has confirmed that the game will now be released February 18th, 2025. The game's director, Carrie Patel, recently claimed that the game has more than 10 endings. They added, I can tell you our ending slides number is double digits, and you can end with a lot more different combinations of them. All right, didn't mean to keep all that stuff at the end there, but anyway, it's okay. So here's the thing: Avowed is going to run at 30 frames per second. That is probably the target frame rate, and this has sparked a lot of conversation among people about like, is this the Xbox Series S holding back Xbox? I call bullshit to that because I don't see why they couldn't target 60 FPS on the Series X and then 30 for Series S. I don't think it's one necessarily holding back the other. But in all honesty, we'd be having a very different conversation if it weren't for how last year played out, because remember when Starfield was like, oh, Starfield's going to be 30 FPS, and then even I was like, oh, I don't like that. That's kind of silly. What's the excuse? Then Starfield came out, and it ran at 30 frames per second, and it didn't fucking matter. And would 60 frames per second be nicer? Of course. And do I hope they eventually release a patch and get to 60 FPS? Sure. But they've proven that even though 60 FPS is nicer, 30 is absolutely completely fine. It's true, when it's not a twitchy-based first-person shooter like Call of Duty that requires that timing and precision and everything, and when it's a little more slow-paced like the combat style in a game like this is, where it's more melee-focused, and it's more like, decidedly, I don't know what I'm saying, like slower, smaller scale kind of combat, where it's like a guy with an axe or a sword slashing against like a zombie creature, It's different from like trying to hit a 20,000 kill streak and get a fucking 360 no scope and drop a nuclear tactical bomb on the map. Like it's a different need. It's not to say that 60 frames couldn't benefit in both scenarios. It's just to say they favored the visual fidelity, the resolution, the lighting, and everything over the frame rate. And here's the reason why. Because despite the fact that in the hardcore gaming community, the fact that a lot of us prefer frame rates over resolution, the thing is, most people prefer high resolution and they don't notice the frame rate as much. People want a prettier picture more than they want a smooth refresh rate. People want the thing to have the crispest picture, the best lighting, the best coloring, the best detail, and all of that, because then you can see something at a glance and go, ooh, that is pretty. Whereas sometimes if you're seeing 30 frames per second versus 60 versus 120 versus whatever, your eyes can tell that something's different, but you might not be able to put into words, hey, this looks good, this looks bad. I think the visual stuff, the lighting, the resolution, all that plays a way bigger role for most people in terms of determining whether or not something looks good or is pretty to look at. And so I think for a lot of these publishers and developers, it's more important to hit that high resolution, high quality of visuals and assets and lighting and all that, because it means more to more people than 30 versus 60 FPS, even though to us more hardcore, knowledgeable, in the know kind of hardcore gamers, we know that frame rate is king and that it's more important. It's just, I think that's kind of like the diametrically opposed situation that these teams work with, which is having to pick one over the other. And it's like, do you satiate your most hardcore fans by doing what they want, or do you appeal to the larger number? It's kind of like, it's like anything, right? Anytime you're a fan of something, it's like the thing you want is never the thing you can have, because the thing the mass audiences want is the thing you like less, right? It's like in theme parks when you just want them to make something like Horizons again, but the world just wants to see fucking Casa Madrigal. So instead of getting Mystic Manor and Animal Kingdom, you end up with fucking Encanto, because this is the world we live in. People want the shitty thing, not the nice thing. People have the wrong expectations. And when you're the hardcore fan, you got to understand that you're dumb, apparently, and you have the niche taste, and that's just how it goes. So I think from that perspective, I can understand easily why they went with 30 over 60, and why they had to pick resolution, things like that over performance. Sorry, I'm cracking my knuckles here. But then the other conversations around this is the Xbox Series S holding the Xbox Series X back. Shut up, dude. I think one thing that's been clear this whole generation is that the PS5 and the Xbox Series X are not as powerful as we thought they were. They seemed like they were going to do fucking 4K 60 FPS all the time when they were announced, and it has been true for both platforms that they've been kind of underwhelming in terms of what they deliver from a power output standpoint. And I think that's all this is, just yet another example of developers are working with this hardware and saying it's not that easy to get that kind of performance out of it, not as much as it sounds like it is on paper. So they had to make a decision. 60 FPS wasn't an easy thing to do on top of the visual fidelity they were trying to hit, and so they had to make a decision. I really think it comes down to that. And more to the point, I don't know, it's like after Starfield, don't you feel a little bit tired about getting up in arms about this? Because I don't know, was I not the only one who played Starfield and was like, oh yeah, I need to shut up. I was wrong here. Like this isn't the best, but it is more than fine. This game is great. whether it runs at 30 or 60 FPS, this game is still great. 60 is better, yeah, but it doesn't stop me from really enjoying the fuck out of this game. And I feel like Avowed will be even more so like that because Starfield has a lot of first-person shooting and stuff like that. Avowed is even more slow and plodding, kind of like a Skyrim, where I mean there are some guns in Avowed, but it's not like twitchy, you know. It's slower pace. It's like something like Fallout or Skyrim. So I don't know. It's gonna be fine at the end of the day. I'm sure there will be a 60 FPS patch somewhere down the road, but for now, I just can't bring myself to really feel any particular way about this, if I'm being completely honest. All right, guys, and then the only other news story really this week to talk about, the only thing of real note, is just that Nintendo had a Nintendo Direct, and a couple games were announced during it that are coming to Xbox. So, and I really don't want to dwell on any of these too long because nothing super exciting, but Balatro is getting an update, that popular card game that came out earlier this year, and it's getting like a crossover update with like Among Us and like Vampire Survivor and all these other games, other indie games and stuff on it. So that's cool. Neva was announced, which is a new adventure game from the people that make Gris, which is a game that was a really popular Game Pass game. Looks pretty good. It comes out October 15th for Xbox Series consoles. They announced a new Coffee Talk game and a new update for Sea of Stars. And then they announced, I'm trying to think, Tetris Forever, which is this really cool new Tetris game that is like an interactive documentary that talks about the story behind Tetris, which I think is like one of the coolest, most interesting ways to tell the story of, or to play Tetris, is like also through telling the story, because at this point, after all these years, like the history of Tetris has become like a huge talking point when people bring up the game. So I think that's really cool that this is a thing that's coming back. So, or that's coming, is we're getting like this Tetris game that also is like a walk through the history of the game and everything, which is, the game has a really, really interesting history about the Soviet Union and all this shit, and so it's really cool stuff. Next up, a brand new game was announced called SpongeBob SquarePants: The Patrick Star Game. This looks very much like a SpongeBob game made in the vein of those older PS2 era SpongeBob games that they remade a couple years back. But this one looks like it's very physics based. With, you play as Patrick, and there's a lot of like funky stuff. You can do a lot of wacky, fun shit. It just looks like a fun, wacky, all ages kind of SpongeBob game. I don't really have much to say about it though. But yeah, they announced that. And then Castlevania Dominus Collection. This is like one of the last things I want to mention here. This comes with all the Castlevania games that were originally released only for DS back in the day, and as well as a handful of other Castlevania games, and it puts it all in a collection. So for the first time, these games will be available. It's 4 games in all, and this will be available on Xbox for the first time. So Xbox players will be able to play these DS and Game Boy games and such now. Then, let's see if there's anything else. Tales of Grace's F, that's really more for me, but I'm excited about that. Apparently that's coming to Xbox. I hope that's true, but it said consoles, so here's hoping. I would, yeah, it says Xbox at the end title card. January 17, 2025. I love Tales of the series. I never fucking play these games, but I'd really like to experience more of these games. But this is an old one that's being completely remastered, and it's cool to see that it is yeah, it's cool to see it's coming to Xbox. I love seeing the JRPG support. Bandai Namco, got to put it out for you guys. I love a lot of what you do, and I want to put my money where my mouth is, so I probably am going to pick this one up. But that's really it. I didn't want to dwell on any of these too much because I just didn't have too much to get excited about or to share here. But want to put that out there. But really, that's it for the news this week. That's what I'm saying. I have a lot to talk about with games coming out, games I'm playing. I just I don't have too much in the way of news to get through this week. So that's really it. Normally, now we would go into the important enough news stories. Stories important enough to the podcast, but not important enough to warrant our own discussions. But really, the only thing worth mentioning here is that a demo for Epic Mickey Rebrush is now available. The game's coming out next month in September, but now you can try the demo on PC or Xbox and see what you think. Apparently, it's a pretty good port of the game. They made a lot of quality of life changes to it. This is another game I really want to play, but there's just not enough time, not enough disposable income, not enough energy. But throw it on the list. Epic Mickey Rebrushed. All right, guys, let's wrap up the podcast this week with our favorite and best and last section, the comments, the shout-outs, youtube.com/Xbox on podcasts. You go to the comments, you click on the latest episode of the podcast, you go in there and you say whatever the fuck you want, anything nice, anything mean, I'll read it all. If you put the time to write it in, I'll take the time to read it. We got 9 entries to get into this week, but I wanted to start out with this one comment in particular. I think this is another drive-by commenter. Manfred James writes in, and let me just read this because maybe I misread it. I don't know. Let's read it. Honestly, you sound goofy. Xbox putting their titles on other platforms is like a business move, and the people complaining is like crackheads who complain about their dealers selling to other customers besides them and just want them to just sell to them, remembering people don't make money off video games. Video games make money off people. So those that want the console switch, remember the song, Hey Dirty Baby, I Got Your Money from Kellis. They still got your money, and all you're going to do is put the money in another company's pocket when you want to rebel. Yeah, I don't know if this is a drive-by comment or if this, or if this is like a real comment, but if you listen to the show at all, you would know this makes no sense in relation to what we talked about last week. I think last week I titled my podcast something to the effect of Indiana Jones in the dial of fanboy tears or whatever, because I'm making fun of fanboys for egging on this mass consolidation of the games industry and then complaining when Xbox puts their games on PlayStation. Yeah, I don't love that Xbox is putting their games on PlayStation. It does suck, but I totally understand why they're doing it. And yes, I'm going to continue to support Xbox whether they're putting their games on PlayStation or not. Because I like Xbox games, I'm invested in this platform. I'm going to continue to play video games where my fucking 15 plus year old Xbox Live account exists, because that's just where I play my games. So, I mean, I don't give a shit. They can put Halo on PlayStation for all I care. And I'm still going to play Xbox games. Doesn't mean I'm not going to have opinions about it or preferences about it. But, yeah, I just don't understand. I mean, it is worth mentioning. I don't talk about it maybe enough when we have these conversations, but Xbox has accelerated this future for themselves by making these decisions they've made in recent history with Game Pass, with mass consolidation of the industry. But this is the inevitable future for everyone. PlayStation as it is not going to be sustainable forever. I don't think you will always have a standalone box called the PlayStation that you buy just for PlayStation games once every 6 to 8 years. I don't think that is going to be a permanent tenable solution. I think Xbox is clearly the first one that's going to fall from this traditional market. But inevitably, this is how everyone's going to go because console sales are just going to continue to dip, I think, more and more. I just don't see how every generation going forward is going to be like, yeah, this makes sense. Let's buy a $500 box once every 6 years. When you could just play games on streaming, and streaming technology is getting better and better, and you can play games on your TV, on your tablet, on your phone, and this is what people like to do. And honestly, it seems like the games industry in a way is shrinking because people just want to spend time on certain platforms like Fortnite and don't necessarily give a shit about Xbox versus PlayStation versus Nintendo. So I don't really understand a lot of the intent behind this comment, because it's like, I understand what they're doing. I don't blame them for what they're doing. I don't like what they're doing, but I get it, and it's not going to make me just give up on the decades of Xbox support and my whole profile and all the games I have on my account. Like, I don't understand. I'm not a crack fiend complaining that my crack dealer is selling to other people and then still expecting things to change when I support them. I know what that practice is like. I'm a Disney fan, after all. I know what it's like to complain about everything Disney does and then still fucking whatever, still renew my annual pass and go to Disney every weekend. So I don't know. It's as if it's like this idea that you can't be highly critical of the companies you support and then still support them. It's like, I don't know. I don't like many CEOs really, honestly, at all, but it doesn't change the fact that, fucking Halo 3 is still a really fun video game. I don't, like, what do you want me to do about it? Like, this is the world. Everything is complicated. Everything is gray. You have to take the good with the bad, and sometimes the things you love come with some bad parts. So I don't know. I don't understand the intent behind this comment, but nonetheless, Fred James, thank you for writing in. Feel free to elaborate if you'd like, I guess. Anyway, Mike Clark writes in and says, last things first. Keep the Sonic music coming at the end of the show. It's absolutely electric. Fuck yeah, Mike Clark, I will. As I replay the podcast episode for the third time, yes, I'm that dedicated. For the love of God, thank you, but don't do that. Let's ponder whether or not it's necessary to point out that Xbox hardware has been shambling along the zombie, like a zombie in state of decay for the last 10 years. It's crystal clear that they're more interested in harvesting subscriptions than cultivating gardens of games. They seem to forget about the games, the developers, and the laws. What does the laws mean? I don't know. What exclusives? Go Nintendo. As for Xbox's strategy, it's straightforward. Come February, I'll throw down $12 a month for Game Pass on PC. I'll play Indie, I'll play Avowed, I'll play Stalker. Exploiting this loophole? Yes. It's an American-ass apple pie. It's American as apple pie. After all, it's just business. And that's my Xbox strategy going forward. Microsoft seems to have left a bit of a mess. So hand-washing intermission is in order before we proceed. Let me stop there. Yeah, that is totally fine. I totally get it. I want to subscribe to that Ubisoft subscription service for 1 month for $15 so I can play that new Star Wars game and then unsubscribe and never play again because I don't give a shit about their subscription service. Yeah, absolutely. If that's the world they will enable people to interact with, that's a situation they're allowing to create, then they have to contend with that. That's their bed. They need to lay in it. I don't care. People should enjoy things however they enjoy them, and Xbox has absolutely done their most hardcore fans dirty with some of the decisions they're making, but Xbox is not going to survive by catering to this very small and shrinking hardcore demographic they have. They're gonna survive by pivoting and finding a new and more successful way to succeed and thrive in this industry, and that is the path they've chosen. And yes, it comes at the dissatisfaction of a lot of us long-time Xbox fans, and yeah, that sucks. But sometimes things suck. Sometimes they demolish Horizon. Sometimes, I don't know what to tell you. Sometimes they replace the fucking great movie ride with the shittiest little Mickey Mouse screen projector ride you've ever been on. And that's just life. I mean, what do you want me to say? Gamescom. Oh, how it totally slipped my mind. I've been time traveling back to the classics, getting lost in Dreamcast adventures. Online, yes, it's free for hours. It's a blast from the past, and there's a kicker. I'm buzzing more about the fresh batch of games hitting the Sega Genesis than the latest from Xbox or PlayStation. The show was fantastic once again, Jesse. I really enjoyed it and I'm looking forward to the next one. Well, enjoy your retro games. Enjoy your time. And hey, man, dude, we got to be savvy out there. You got to use your time and your money wisely. And if Xbox is going to allow for people to do things like what you're going to do, then that's their problem to deal with. Fuck it. I don't care. I'm not here to like defend Xbox. And yeah, that's why the only thing Xbox really can do to prevent people like you from wanting to do stuff like that is to have such a steady stream of great content coming all the time to Game Pass that there's no point ever unsubscribing. But the problem is, I don't know that model works for video games. Gamers have such finicky and particular tastes, and the games take so long to play and so long to develop, and they're so expensive to make, and I just don't know that you could realistically and feasibly afford to have a cadence constantly that reflects something like that. Like, there's always something really fun and new to play. There is always something new to play on Game Pass, but there's not always something for everyone at all times. Not really. And I don't think you can fix that. I don't think you can have really awesome, brand new AAA games that appeal to mass markets of people every single month on Game Pass. They got close to it, but then Microsoft shot themselves in the foot and decided to start putting everything on PlayStation, so we won't get to see how that plays out, but we got pretty close to seeing what that was like. Thank you, Mike Clark, for writing in. Have a wonderful week, good sir. BP Fadio writes in, been a while, man. You said, hey, quick question. Any idea why Xbox 360 doesn't play discs anymore? Related to the store shutting down? Thanks. I'll be honest, I knew nothing about this, and I don't have an answer for you because my Xbox 360 has had a broken disk drive since 2013, so I cannot answer this question. BP Fadio, I'm sorry to have failed you. I could have done a little research for you, but I didn't because I am lazy. And for that, I must say, stay away from my girl, Andrangia, and have a wonderful day. God bless. iCronky writes in and says, I think we all share a fear of Xbox, the box in the living room, going away because games are coming to PlayStation. And all I can say to that is if they do get rid of the box, I'm going to find a way to get my PC in my living room on my TV and somehow make it still usable. I won't go to PlayStation, only for the platform to die shortly thereafter. Yeah, kind of to my point. PlayStation has that same fate ahead of it. It just can sustain what it's doing a lot longer than Xbox because they were smarter and savvier and did a better job of preserving themselves than Xbox did. Honestly, it just really comes down to that. Plus, they just won over a bigger portion of the market sooner, and it's just hard to get people back. I mean, Android, there are better phones on Android than Apple has ever made, but you're never going to get people away from iPhone. Apple just did way too good of a job getting people trapped in that ecosystem, and they have done way too good of a job keeping people satiated in that market. So you're not going to peel people away from Apple. Microsoft's not going to peel people away from Sony, and that is just the way it goes. Unless Sony fucks up tremendously, which they haven't done since the PS3, and I don't see happening again anytime soon. That's just the way it is. Objects in Space writes in and says, I'm so pumped for Mafia the Old Country. 2025 is going to be stacked. Dude, 2023 was stacked. 2024 is stacked. 2025 is also stacked. Man, we are doing so good. There's so many good video games coming out all the time. The problem is not, when our next good video game is coming out. It is just when we get a fucking break to play these games. The time and money to just sit down and actually get through this shit. It's impossible, man. There's just too much stuff. HD Hobbs says, I never believed that delaying Avowed had anything to do with the player's backlog. I was firmly in the camp thinking that the game just needed some extra polish, which is fair enough. But with the PS5 announcement of Indiana Jones, I wouldn't be surprised if Avowed was delayed and to have something to do with the PS5 version. Hey, that's a good observation. That could be totally true. I am sure Avowed is coming to PlayStation at some point, which is, yeah, probably absolutely happening. And maybe this is somehow related. I genuinely think the game needed a little more polish. Yeah, I don't think I ever had anything to do with players' backlogs and them respecting anything. This just has to do with positioning the game to come out in a time where it can do as well as it can possibly do, as well as giving it a little extra polish. But I am sure this game is coming to PlayStation, whether that is or is not related to this, yet to be seen. But HD Hobbs, thank you for writing in, and I'll fucking see. My mom says, great episode. Ramen is the best. I agree. Ramen is very good. Cronky says, I'm so excited for Age of Mythology. I never played it as a kid, but from a Warcraft 3/Black and White era, and I'm so excited to give it a try. I'll be sure to write in about how good it is since you won't play good games. Well, hey, Cronky, don't you look like a fucking asshole now because I just said I wanted to play this game and give it a try. So, but yeah, I don't play good games. I play Sonic and fucking Cars, so who cares? Thank you for writing in, everybody. We are wrapping up with the final and best comment, none other than the sexy, mischievous Mr. Headhunting Halo, who writes in and says, Avowed will hopefully hold me over until Elder Scrolls 6. You getting hyped for Mountain Dew Voodoo? It's coming back, and this time of year, sadly, with my diet, I'll only be able to smell it, but I might use it as mouthwash for a minute, but that's it. I am Torok. Headhunting Halo, that's sad and funny as hell. Listen, man, you can drink zero sugar Mountain Dew Voodoo. I feel like zero sugar soda is so critical to losing weight because it's like, oh man, I got to eat fucking rice and veggies and grilled chicken or whatever. But it's like, you have a zero sugar Pepsi or a zero sugar Mountain Dew to go with it. It helps so much. It helps get you full, helps keep you satisfied like you had a proper meal. And it's 0 calories added. Now, that's not to say 0 calorie sugar or zero sugar soda is healthy. Of course it's not. But if all you're trying to do is lose weight, strategically using zero sugar soda can be pretty helpful. That's one of the tricks I use to help diet. So I don't know. To each their own, of course. If you can do it without the zero sugar soda, it's definitely healthier. But I don't know, man. They do Mountain Dew Voodoo in zero sugar form, so might want to give it a try, baby. That's all I gotta say about that. And then that will do it for this week's episode of Xbox On Podcast. It's over. Goodbye, everybody. Go play Pumpkin Jack and then go play Akimbot. Please support Play On Games. How do they say that? It's Play On. I don't know. They're a French team, so you got to bear with us, guys. The French and the words, they're not very good at it. But guys, thank you so much for listening. Be well, be good. Enjoy your Xboxes while you still got them. Enjoy your PlayStations while you still got them. Just enjoy video games. There are so many good video games coming from all directions, and the best we can do is just try to appreciate the games that we're getting and the people behind these games. So have a great week. Be well, be safe. I got a new kitty. We got a new kitty last weekend. We adopted a new kitty. He's a little fucking rambunctious baby, but I'm going to go give him some pets because he's freaking cute. And yeah, that's what I'm going to go do. So you guys take care. Be well. Until next week, power your dreams.